What's going on, my fine peoples? So I just since I have been going through a little bit of up and downs emotionally, these last few days, it kind of inspired me to make a video talking about past hurts, things that have hurt you in the past that may even still be hurting you. Yeah, so as you guys know, well, some of you guys may know, my brother was killed 13 years ago. And the thing about that is that I never grieved properly. I felt like I had to be tough around people. I had to be tough around my parents because I felt like if they saw that I was okay, that they would be okay. So I didn't really get to express myself a lot emotionally, in a sense of, crying when I needed to cry, or talking out any type of issue or problem that I was dealing with because of the death. And I never really got asked by my parents, like if I was okay. Not that I can remember, or if I needed to talk or anything, because I think it was still something that they were trying to figure out themselves. I can remember for like months walking across my living room and just looking at my dad sitting in a chair with tears in his eyes. Nothing was needed to be said. I knew why there was tears in his eyes, but images like that sit in my mind. And they have had a tremendous effect on my adult life and how I managed my emotions, managed my relationships with people. So none of it was for the good. I would say all of it was pretty bad, the way I handled certain situations and thought about certain situations. Because the thing is that I believe I kind of downplayed how much of an effect my brother's death had on me. So I kind of ignored how it was affecting me. I would, act like nothing was wrong. I would act like, I'm still myself. Give you a perfect example. Like I went to school the very next day. I took no breaks after my brother died. Happened in the middle of a school week, and I went to school the next day and continued to go to school the rest of the school year. Like I never took any type of break. And breaks are needed. The ability to decompress is needed. The ability to grieve is needed. No different than going through a breakup after a long-term relationship. Time to yourself is needed. Time to grow, time to look back on things you could have did differently is needed in order to heal yourself and to grow yourself. And in that situation, life continued on. I never grieved. I never took time to sit in my thoughts, which is unusual for me because I am a guy who lives in his thoughts. I live in my thoughts. I live in books and I live in my thoughts. So somebody of my mental capacity to not handle that situation correctly is very unusual. Though I was younger, I was 18, and I really didn't fully get into my intuitive state until I was maybe about 23. That's when I really became like conscious, really became focused on learning knowledge, gaining knowledge and learning more about myself, becoming a lot more self-aware. So at 18, I was pretty much still focused on girls and basketball. So I can't be too hard on myself. That's another thing. Can't be too hard on yourself. So there were many ways this trauma affected me. I would say growing up, I was pretty much had an avoidant attachment style. Like if I think about it now, like I've been focusing a lot on my attachment styles because I went through a rough breakup and I want to learn more about how to be better in relationships. So I was looking at attachment styles and where I fit in attachment styles. And I would say I am somewhat of an avoidant. You know what? Scratch that. I would say before the death of my brother, I was a secure attachment style individual, where I was healthy. I was secure in myself, confident in myself, mainly because of my parents. They instilled that in me, and I didn't grow up with parents that had a divorce. There was arguing and, things of that nature, like any typical marriage, but they pretty much were able to get along as in some certain circumstances. I would say, though, like after the death of my brother, I became more an avoidant and like progressively into like a fearful avoidant. I think just the death of him had an effect on my emotional capacity in the sense that I was afraid to give myself to people because I felt like they were going to leave me again how my brother left me. So my body, in order to protect itself, it created a big wall that didn't allow people to penetrate that wall because the fear of being hurt, the fear of somebody leaving me. So I dealt with that through most of my adult age. I didn't really date too much. I mean, I dated, but I didn't really have like long-term relationships because I never wanted somebody to get that close. Until 2015, I started dating a girl, and that turned out to be a long-term relationship for us, 7 years. And though I was willing to take the step into making that a relationship in the beginning, I didn't even really want that to be in a relationship. I was wanting that more to be a fling. But it gradually grew into a relationship, and I grew really fond of her, so I really grew to love her. And she was more of an anxious attachment style. And so we were kind of different, but anxious attachments and avoidant attachments attract one another because they're kind of opposite of the spectrum. And there's this thing to, opposites do attract, where I have holes in me, in my life, she fills those. And maybe where she has holes in her insecurities and her confidence, I fill those because I'm a lot more confident. I'm a lot more secure in myself. So us being opposite created a completion between both of us. We completed one another. So I think that's what made it work. But there comes a time where it gets kind of out of control. I allowed my trauma from my brother's death to have too much of an effect on our relationship. And I didn't really see this until, looking back after we broken up. I'm able to look back, hindsight 2020, and to really see what has been affecting me all this time to make me feel the way I feel. While I was in that relationship, I used to talk to God, y'all. Like, I used to talk to God and ask him, like, yo, why, like, what's this demon in me? Like, no lie, I used to ask him, like, I got a demon in me. What's this demon in me? Because it used to come up periodically. Like, whenever it was triggered, whenever I was triggered, that demon would come. And it's pain. So because I didn't grieve that I didn't grieve properly, it turned into pain. It turned into anger. Then it turns into resentment. So that anger would pop up here and now, here and now, here and there while I was in the middle of that relationship. And it got to a point where I couldn't really control it. The only time I would be able to recognize it was after the fact. After I yelled, after I got mad, after I cooled down a little bit, I would think like, man, why did I like lose control? Why did I get so angry? Like, what's making me like do this? What's making me feel this way? And then from there, I started to become somewhat aware of it, but not fully, not to the point where I could attack it and try to deal with it. So from there, that anger started to turn into like resentment, to where I started to become cold and distant towards her, because that energy was mutating into something different. It was mutating into resentment, to where I didn't want to be affectionate with her. I didn't want to be close to her. I didn't want to have deep conversations with her. Not that I really didn't want to, but something within me was holding me back from allowing myself to express those kind of emotions. And I could never put my finger on what it was. Like, I used to just sit in my thoughts, like, why do I feel this way? Like, why can't I just talk? Why is it so painful for me to talk? Why is it so painful for me to express myself, express my feelings? So I went on for years like this, like fully aware that I have a problem, but not aware enough and not confident and courageous enough to be like, I'm going to attack it. I'm going to address it. I'm going to fix this because it's hurting my relationship. It's hurting the girl who I love. It's hurting her feelings. I wasn't aware enough to make those changes. It's only until we separated from each other I began to grow. And in my last video, I talked about it's hard to see the problems when you're in the midst of the storm. It's hard to fix things when you're in the middle of it. Only when you're outside of the storm, when you're away from the storm, when you're ahead of the storm, can you look back and see how you should have handled things differently, or see how you should have been a different kind of person. So after we broke up, then I was able to really put my focus onto God, for one, because that relationship left me in a severe depression, super depressed. Like when you're with somebody every day and you share most of your day with that person and they just aren't there anymore, it's like you lose a part of yourself. You're no longer complete. Like my whole day was centered around her. Her whole day is centered around me. We watch the same shows. We like the same shows. You know what I mean? So we eat dinner together. So when you no longer have that and just your empty apartment, you feel incomplete. You feel like a hole is missing. So you start to get the thoughts of, how am I going to get through this? Am I ever going to get through this? You even contemplate suicide at times. Like, not necessarily that you're going to go through it, but you think, why am I here? What am I here for? You know what I mean? If I can't make one person happy, if I'm not good enough for this person, if I'm not good enough for anybody, then you start to get to thinking like, why am I even here? I shouldn't even be here. I shouldn't even be here. You get to getting deep into those kind of thoughts, and that's dangerous, man. That's dangerous. It's a very slippery slope when you start to get into that mind state. Thank God of the Bible for me, because that saved me. That saved my life. That changed my mind. It gave me a peace, because when I was going through it, just one day I had a call. There's a pastor named Tony Evans, very well-known black preacher, I believe from Texas. I came across one of his videos on YouTube and started just binge watching all his lectures, not lectures, but services. And he doesn't know how much of effect that had on me during my depression. And it led me straight to the Bible. I started reading the Bible. See, I'm already a person who loves knowledge. I'm already a person who reads a lot. So it was nothing for me to pick up the Bible and start reading it. And if you guys struggle with reading the Bible, get one with a different translation. You don't have to read the King James Version, the old Elizabeth English. You don't have to read that. You can get the Amplified. You can get the New Translations. There's a whole bunch of different types of translated forms of the Bible. Get one that fits you, where it makes the most sense for you, and just digest it. Because the thing about the Bible is, people think it's just a book of a whole bunch of different stories. It's not. It's honestly a book to teach you how to live. And if you really want the ultimate peace in life, if you want the ultimate form of happiness, you will grow fond to read the words of Jesus, read the words of, the prophets, of the disciples, because it's healing. It's healing. It's healing when you read those words. It takes a lot of weight off your shoulders and puts those onto our Creator, because there's power in his words. And I can only tell you because I've been through it. I know many people will brush it off because they have never been in a circumstance in their life where they had to count on God, but I have. And I know who pulled me out of that depression. It wasn't myself. It wasn't myself. It's hard to explain, but just know that what he did for me, he can do for you. And for some reason, we think giving our life to God is something hard. All you got to do is be a good person and believe in him. It's like the easiest thing. Be a decent human being, read his word, and have faith in him. It's easy. It's easy. Ever since I've been doing that, I've been seeing nothing but blessings. Yes, I still have my ups and downs. I still stress. I'm talking about the relationship I had with my ex, but during that time, I had also lost my job and got into a car accident. So everything was getting hit on me at once, which is why I was severely depressed, which is why I was in the wilderness, similar to the Israelites after they escaped from Egypt. I was in my own personal wilderness, and I had to find a way to get out of it. And God called me. God called me. And the thing is that I know the power is real. This is how you know the power is real. I'll give y'all a perfect example. Yesterday, I was feeling the need to post on Instagram just a quick little story of how I was depressed for like 2 years. I was depressed for like 2 years. All of COVID, I didn't have a job, which created financial stress on me and my ex's relationship. Tremendous amounts of stress. Living in a luxury apartment with one income, one person producing income. I'm having to use all my savings that I had in stocks and stuff to help with whatever I could to keep us afloat. There's a lot of times I couldn't give her money. God bless her soul. She kept us afloat in that time. Strong woman. But back to what I was saying, like there's power in it. I made a post of how I was depressed. I felt the urge, like something was telling me like, hey, yo, make that post, make that post. And I didn't want to like really put that depression stuff up there, and maybe I was suicidal. I don't be wanting people to know all that. That's deep and it's personal, and it's personal. And it also kind of goes back to me being afraid of what others would think of me. But because I've been healed, because I've been healing, because God has been working on me, I am a lot more vulnerable. I can tell people things about me and not feel ashamed, not feel soft, not feel less of a man. Like I feel strong and I'm comfortable and confident in my skin. So there's nothing that anybody could say to me to make me fall or to make me feel weak. I'm that strong. I'm that confident right now. And that's because of God. But when I made that post, I had that urge, like something telling me like, yo, Corey, make the post, make the post. I'm telling you, this is him, Holy Spirit talking to me. Make the post. I'm telling you, make the post. And when God speaks to me, I'm pretty obedient. And the thing is that I didn't know why he wanted me to make that post. He wanted me to make that post for some reason. He wanted me to reach somebody. I didn't know, but he knows. So when I made that post, you'd be surprised at the amount of people that were needing to see and hear that post. I had somebody send me a direct message after that post talking about they were wanting to commit, suicide. They wanted to give up on life. And that just tells me that's God at work, using me. He's been using me like crazy. I sat on the phone with a girl for 5 hours, just preaching God's words to her because she was struggling and she couldn't see herself getting through. This was just a week ago. When you give yourself to God and you got a voice, you got a gift, he'll show you how to use it and he'll work through you. So because I make content, because I am a pretty good speaker, I'm pretty good at talking to people, he uses me in that form. He puts things in me that I relay to other people. And usually when people come to me, like when the gentleman wrote me a DM about wanting to give up on life, I prayed before. I said, God, please give me the right wording so I may lead this person in the right direction. I want you to flow through me while I deliver this message. So I feel comfortable when I do prayers like that. I feel comfortable giving people advice because I know he's flowing through me. He brung the person to me in the first place. He made me make the post, which caused the person to read the post, which caused the person to reach out to me because they know that, I'm somewhat intellectual. I spend a lot of time trying to better myself. So people reach out to me naturally asking for advice. So if you ever feel the urge to speak on your truth, to speak on something that you may have went through, and you get that urge telling you to relay that information to people, please do it. That's God speaking to you, because you don't know who he wants that message to reach. He's calling you to do it for a specific reason. There's going to be somebody that watches your story that's going to need that message. I made that post. Over 400 people saw that story. One person was the one that came to me talking about he wanted to give up in life. And that's all that matters. That one person. I'm here for that one person. I make these videos for that one person. I don't need 100,000 views. I don't need 1 million views. I just need that one person that may be struggling, that may be going through something. And this content could possibly help them get through. That's all I look for. That's all I want. So I know I got a little sidetracked here, but if you're dealing with hurt, As I said, you must acknowledge it. You must face it. And I would also say that you need to go to church with it. You need to go to church and fellowship with other Christ-like individuals, people that can support you. Or if you're not religious, maybe you should go see a counselor. You should go see a therapist. You know, for people that are Christians or spiritual, we believe our higher power is, you know, the ultimate person when it comes to trying to rid yourself or rid your body of things. And we see more of therapy or counseling as tools as well. So we can do both. We can fellowship with other church individuals, you know, go to our pastor, and we can also go to therapists, maybe more religious focused therapists. You know, so there's plenty of tools to help you deal with your issues, to help you deal with your trauma. But you have to do something. You can't think that you're going to fix those issues on your own, because you won't. You're not going to know how to deal with them. You're not going to know how to handle them, because for years, for decades, you haven't addressed them. You haven't handled them. So what makes you think that all of a sudden now you're going to know how to fix your problems yourself? Trust and believe that that won't work. Take it from somebody who's been dealing with trauma for 13 years. So you must congregate. I'm saying congregate because I'm religious. I think church heals the soul. I think the word of God heals the soul. I never have experienced anything other than like coming out of church after hearing the choir sing, after hearing a message from my pastor. There's no other feeling. Dopamine for me is released the most in those moments. No drug can give me the dopamine that the choir or the pastor's message could do for me. There is something special when you're in the church and you're surrounded by other Christ-like individuals. Like, you can feel the energy. The energy is different. The energy is different. I don't know how to explain it to you guys, but you just have to be there to understand what I mean. Like, it's funny, it's like the post that you said, you should have been there, or you should have been here. And that quote is a way of saying that I can't even express to you how powerful this was or how great the concert was. Like, you had to have been there. And that's how church is. In order to know what that feeling is like, to be around the music, the joy, the energy, other Christ-like individuals that have the Holy Spirit in them. So you must congregate, you must fellowship, you must be with your church family, or if you're not religious, then maybe be more around your friends that are going to give you good advice, because most people, their advice is jaded. Most of their advice is, kind of geared towards their own trauma. They're going to give you trauma-based knowledge. So be careful with who you get information from. But see a therapist. At least they're professionals and they have dealt with other people with similar instances. So there's outlets, there's ways for you to get help. And I would say, for me, that helped me as well, lastly, is prayer. Like, prayer has been tremendous for me. I pray at least twice a day, either in the morning or after I get to my parking spot at work, and right before I go to sleep. So I always start the day and finish the day with prayer, and maybe sometimes get some quick ones in throughout the day. But it is vital. It is vital being connected to the source. The only way we connect to God is through prayer. So if you're not praying, you're never connecting to God. You're never speaking to him. And it's about your relationship with him. That's all it is. We allow the concepts to fog up our vision. The concepts of religion and all these different denominations. None of that stuff really matters. What matters is your relationship with him. You don't need to be a Christian. You don't need to be a Catholic. It's all about your relationship with him. You do need to fellowship with other like-spirited individuals, but The denominations, that's a whole nother thing itself. But the most important thing is that you're building a relationship with him, that you're growing to know him, that you're growing to love him, and you're allowing him to love on you. And the only way you get to know him is through his words, because through his words, you get to understand his character and who he is and the things he will do for you. So prayer is a necessity for me. I need to pray. I feel incomplete if I don't pray. I feel like I'm going to miss out on my blessings if I don't pray, because that's my only connection to him is through prayer. So it's a must for me. And it's therapeutic. You know how it's therapeutic to write in a journal, to get everything off on your chest in a journal, or to write in a diary? It's the same way with prayer. It's therapeutic. You're releasing everything off your chest and putting that weight on him. You know, so I need that. I journal as well. I need all of it. I need all of it to be able to record my thoughts, to see how I'm evolving in my thoughts, to see how I'm changing as an individual, how I'm getting better as an individual. If you don't track all these things, you don't know if you're progressing or not. And if you're not praying, to God on a daily, then you're not connecting to the source. Then you're missing out on the bounty of blessings that he would love to bestow upon you. So I just thank you guys, for listening to me go on in this video, but I'm just trying to find a way to help you guys manage your past hurt, and stopping that from affecting your future. Allow me to be the one to learn the hard lessons. Listen to what I tell you in these videos so you don't have to go through that and have to learn it on your own. As you would tell a child, as you would tell your kid, hey, don't do this, because when I was your age, I did this and this was the outcome. You want to stop them from having some lessons. Some they can learn on their own, they must learn on their own, but some things that are super detrimental to their livelihood and to their future, you don't want them to learn those things. You want to step in for them. So allow my anguish, allow my trauma, allow my lessons that I had to learn, allow that to help you guys in your life. But if you guys are down, I would like to get a quick prayer in, man. I ain't never done this before, but why not? Why not? Because prayer can be this simple. You ready? Let's go. Dear Heavenly Father, I just come to you and I just thank you for all the grace that you have bestowed upon me, all the love that you have bestowed upon me, always being there for me for when I need you. I thank you for allowing me to get through this day without having any fear, doubt, or any worry about my future or what you're doing behind the scenes. I know that all that you do is for my good, and I trust you with that. I have trust, faith, and belief in you, Lord, at all times. You are my strength. You are my guidance. Lead me, Father. Flow through me, Father, so that when I make decisions in life, they're not just coming from me, but they're coming from you. I want you to work through me, Father. I want you to be the driving force in my life. I thank you for all that you've done for me and all that you will do for me in the future. I pray that you continue to protect me as I go throughout my day. Continue to protect me as I drive through traffic, as I go through traffic on my way to the work, on my way to gym, and on my way back home, Father. I thank you for always being there for me. In your holy name I pray, Jesus. Amen.